Hey Arizona, if you live in the West Valley and don't want to travel all the way downtown or to Tempe for cool retro clothing and products, then check out our friends over at Ivory House. With online reviews saying affordable prices, quality pieces, and nice owners, how could you beat that? Located at 650 North Estrella Parkway, Suite A4, Goodyear, Arizona, 85338.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And welcome to a very special guest segment of the Real Sharks podcast. I am joined by writer, producer, actor, and podcaster of the Bird Brain podcast, Isaiah Frizzelle.
Hey, man.
Hey, Isaiah, how's it going? Great.
Bad.
Let me just say hello and then hail, fellow podcaster.
Yeah. Yes.
So how are you doing on this eve of Halloween?
Man, I'm doing all right. It's been a crazy day because I'm doing the final pieces of the horror episode for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I usually try to shoot like a horror short in the month of Halloween, or like for Halloween, because it's my favorite time of year, favorite holiday. But there's been so much happening that I didn't get to shoot short, and I'm like kicking myself, but I have the podcast, so I'm like.
What's your inspiration for this short?
The inspiration for the short, it's funny. I think the inspiration is simply whatever comes to mind. Like for me, there's not always a catalyst when either I write a story or shoot a short. It's just like I sit still and whatever comes to mind first, I lean into that and I just flow.
Nice. That's better than what Squid here does. He doesn't do anything.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, are you guys like big Halloween fans?
Oh yeah, no, we're big horror fans. Yeah, we love horror movies. What's your favorite horror movie?
The original Halloween.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, our co-host Mike would love you for that. Mine personally is I like Night of the Living Dead, the original.
Night of the Living Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the original Halloween. I think that made me a huge John Carpenter fan.
Yeah, man. I think the reason why I like the original Halloween, I always tell people, is like from a filmmaker's perspective, like I appreciated because for me, horror movies, I'm not a big gore fan. I like movies that are like it's a little bit more atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ominous, it's that whole vibe. So I enjoy that a lot. And that's why I like the original Halloween, because it was just creepy. It had a creepy vibe to it.
What did you think of Rob Zombie's remake?
I hated it.
You really?
Really, you hated it?
Wow.
Hated it. And when I saw it, I was thoroughly disappointed, because for me, I'm like, it just became... I don't like, it's one thing if there's gore in a movie and it has its place. It's another thing when it's just like thrown in there for like shock effect. And
We make that argument all the time here.
Yeah.
Like Saw.
That's what I appreciated about Saw. Like the first movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Afterwards, it just became this thing of like, all right, how far can we push the envelope with killing people and
Mm-hmm.
without it being considered sadistic or serial killers? Yeah, so for me, I like simple. I like simple, creepy. Like the others, I love The Orphanage. I like good ghost stories.
And did you see the 2018 Halloween, the true now sequel to the original? What did you think of that one?
What did I think of that? I thought it was alright. I thought it was cool. I think if you're an original Halloween fan, you probably have some expectations, but I don't think it was the worst out there. I think for me personally, like there's a lot to live up to, but I thought it was cool. Like it was I enjoyed watching it. Like I was happy to see a true I guess sequel to the original Halloween, like a continuation to some degree. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she's just great.
Yeah, she's one of my Hollywood crushes.
I wish I can get that kind of fulfillment with Ridley Scott films, especially Alien.
You yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't expecting it to blow me out of the water. Because, I mean, to be honest, I don't get scared. Like, movies don't necessarily scare me, but I enjoy the environment.
You appreciate the attempt.
Yeah. I think the last movie that really scared me was probably The Orphanage. No, Annabelle. I think it was Annabelle Origins or something.
I think it was Sinister for me.
Sinister?
Yeah, I think so.
I still haven't seen Sinister.
Yeah, Sinister scared me.
Sinister was creepy. Sinister was definitely creepy. I didn't like how it ended, but I thought like throughout the movie it was pretty nuts. And
I just thought the overall idea of it was really clever. I thought that was good. The idea of this guy, this journal. I mean, it was a typical story, but they just had a little twist of ooh, he's in the film. You see this, and now he's not. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. It was. I didn't watch the second one, but the first one, I definitely. The Strangers, I thought was good too.
I recently saw that and I did enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
The original was really good.
Yeah, the original was sick. I thought the second one was pretty dope too.
I think there were some flaws with the second one. I mean, kind of seemed like it wasn't going to be a true sequel.
Yeah.
But anyways, one of the questions I have for you is, what do you enjoy doing more? Do you enjoy being more of a podcaster or more of an actor?
Podcaster or actor? I would. It's funny. I mean,
he loves that podcast life, man.
Yeah, it's hard, and I think that's the thing that it's hard for me to decide and pick between the two, because acting was my first love. Podcasting I fell into 2 years ago, but they both allow me to do me and bring me to the table in very interesting ways. One is a little bit more of my creative process, from start to finish. The other one, I get to be a part of something. So acting is my thing, but at the same time, I do enjoy podcasting because it's whether it's the mental health component or whether it's me creating a horror story, writing a horror story, narrating it, or having other narrators be a part of it. It's just that whole process. I think it's just different. I can't pick between the two. Acting, like I said, I love acting, but also I do enjoy podcasting a lot.
I know, there's a kind of a feel in just Freeman when you do a podcast episode, and just kind of has that euphoria kind of way about it too. Yeah. No, I was actually just listening to your podcast on Wednesday and today, and I gotta admit, I was really digging your podcast. Can you tell us what your podcast is all about?
So the Bird Brain podcast, it's a hybrid. I always say it's a hybrid. In essence, the main component of the Bird Brain podcast, I call it the Bird Brain podcast because I think about, birds. People think birds are dumb. Bird brain, ship brains. But I thought about it a bit further. With birds, if they're in an uncomfortable climate, they know how to migrate to a better climate, better situation. Humans, we don't always do that. We constantly endure things, and we let it weigh us down instead of just kind of taking flight and finding a new way, either a physical environment or a mental environment to just exist in versus what we are constantly up against. So with that, I call it the Bird Brain Podcast because it's about having a bird's eye view of life, common things that weigh us down. Just having more of an elevated perspective, even if it's just to get you through the day, or if it happens to change your perspective on an experience that's been weighing you down for damn near years. It's just about staying elevated. And then, with the night owl, it's all horror. I'm a bit of a night owl, and I used to be much more of a night owl than I am now, but things go bump in the night.
They definitely do.
Yeah. So for me, it was bringing two components of who I am into into one space. I'm always trying to see things from a different perspective, learn from my experiences, and just kind of, carry with me some kind of love and light. And at the same time, I enjoy horror. And they're two very polar opposites, but that's just how it works for me.
Interesting. That's it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Loving life and loving horror movies.
Yeah. It's like, I like to chill out and watch horror movies. Like, people are like, why do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. For me, it's cool for me. It's cool. So
maybe it's the idea of, we sometimes never really feel truly alive until we're scared.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's so I have a degree in psychology too, and one of the things that I did study back when I was in school was why people do enjoy horror movies so much, or why they enjoy being scared. And if you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, one, like you said, it makes you feel alive, but also there's a level of intimacy that happens.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to near-death experiences, horror movies, people are physically closer, and it releases that kind of it releases endorphins, but it also releases pheromones or something like that. That kind of makes attraction much more of a thing. So that's why horror movies kind of have that common theme of sex and all that other crap, and that's the movie that people go see on their dates, and it's just because it brings people together in one way or another.
That's interesting because, so I'm sure you're kind of probably aware of this, being psychology, major in psychology, is, have you heard this idea that throughout the years, if you look at the various horror films, they reflect the time period in which they came from?
Yeah.
Like, you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, and a lot of people talk about how that is, the boomer generation putting the future problems on the next generation, because in the movie, they basically put Freddy off on their kids, and then it becomes a problem for the later generation.
Oh wow, yeah, whoa! I never even thought about that. What's funny? I saw the newer Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love that one. I thought it was cool. And now that you say that, it's like the kids were enduring their parents' problems.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, they talk about how that's usually how it goes in society with movies always reflect our times, but usually they say horror films in particular really reflect the time period.
Yeah. It's, and that's so funny, horror movies, it's interesting because they can go either way. But I think they have a very particular kind of space that they exist in, and if done right, like you said, there is something to it. There's definitely something to it. And I know back in the '80s or even '70s, sex was just this big taboo.
Yeah. And that's why Jason's killing everybody.
Jason's killing everybody. He's like the birth control.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you have sex, you get killed by a guy in a hockey mask.
If you drink, you get killed.
If you drink, you get killed. And also, what's crazy? There was this thing, too, where if you realize the brunettes always got killed before the blondes.
Oh, no, I didn't notice.
I
didn't notice that.
Wow.
Yeah, because there was this implication that blonde hair, blue eyed, there was a level of innocence, whereas if you were brunette, you were kind of wicked, or
makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Why is your hair brunette? Because you're wicked.
So that's basically. I'm screwed. If we ever land in a horror movie, I'm one of the first to die.
Oh yeah, you would be. I'm positive you would be one of the first people to be off. I know in the zombie apocalypse you definitely would be gone.
Yes.
We've had this conversation 1,000 times.
I think it's, I think it's something cool to do with your friends, where it's just you have that worst case scenario, or you just look around the room, you're like, who would survive a horror movie right now? And my buddy was telling me yesterday, he was like, yeah, you're a black guy, so you definitely die first.
Well, actually, according to new formula, you would live, because now the whole black guy dies first is so cliche and known about that movies have actually started to change that as well.
I mean, just look at Get Out and Us.
Yeah. Get Out was dope. Get Out was very cool. There's a lot of symbolism in that movie. Us, I have to like watch and like really be, I guess, in the mood to understand it more. But that was a cool one too. It's just one of those things like you have to really be ready for.
You gotta be in the mood to watch that one. I remember when I watched Us, I mean, it was okay. I mean, it was Jordan Peele's second horror movie. And I guess I had that expectation of this is going to be as great as Get Out, because Get Out scared the living Jesus out of me.
Yeah.
And like halfway through Us, I started getting confused with what was going on, and just even the ending kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah. It's cool. I think, like I said, have you guys ever watched The Orphanage?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That one I love a lot. That to me was just a creepy movie. And it's just like, it just feels uncomfortable. You know, it's a good ghost story. That one, you know, the others is cool too because it's like, it's the environment. Paranormal Activity I thought was amazing. The reason why, the first one.
Yes, it is amazing because it's so cheap.
It's so cheap, and it's like, damn, you guys got that off, and you made how much versus how much you spent. But also too, I think what they did, never reveal the monster. That's how you make a successful horror story. And in Paranormal Activity, the great thing about it was like everyone's sitting in the theater while they're all watching the same movie. Whenever you hear a noise, or like you hear that thump, or there's a reaction, every person has a different idea of what's happening in their head. You know, people are able to create their own version of their own monster. And I think sometimes that's scarier because, you know, when we're left to our own devices, we can do a lot of crazy things, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean the imagination, you know, when it runs wild, it can scare itself, you know. But that's always the key. I find that's the key behind all great horror films is hiding the monster. I mean, look at Jaws and look at Alien. I mean, two movies we still talk about to this day. And what did they do? They hid the monster. Jaws because, you know, they couldn't afford and the special effects kept breaking down, and Alien because, you know, that was the whole idea of it, was just to make this horror in space. The vacuum of space is the terror itself. No one can hear you scream.
Yeah. It's cool. I think, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever watched Jaws yet.
What?
Yeah, I'm not a big shark guy.
Oh, and then you're on the Real Sharks podcast? Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Real Shark podcast, right? I should have said that, huh? But no, I never watched Jaws, and I have this weird aversion to sharks. And I'm just like, I don't trust those fuckers. They apparently hunt like serial killers. Did you guys know that?
I've heard things like that, yeah.
I've heard it, but I didn't really think it was true.
I mean, you can tell me anything about a shark negative. I'm like, yep, you're probably right. I was like, that sounds about right. They can't be trusted. They cannot be trusted.
You know, it's so funny you say that because I always hear this. Like they always say, you know, they don't want to hunt people, but when you hear about boats sinking and you hear about accidents at sea, people are getting eaten.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. What was different about? Oh, maybe they were just tired and they couldn't see, or oh, maybe it was allergy season for them, so they got confused with the person. It's like, no, look, sharks kill people. Period. That's what they want to do. They set out and they do it.
This is so weird. You've never seen Jaws because you know, you talk about great horror movies. I personally feel Jaws is the greatest horror movie. And you know, with your psychology, man, because that movie scares people, you know, who have never even seen it. It scares them out of the water.
That's the thing. That's why I don't watch it. It's funny. We studied it in school. My film class. Okay, so I double majored. I got my degrees in psychology, and then the other one was in filmmaking. So we learned about Jaws and the whole concept of not revealing a monster, because with Jaws, if you think about it, you never see the full body of the shark. just always see the fin, you hear the music and everything leading up to it. So you never see the entirety of the shark, but you're still petrified out of your mind just by seeing the fin. You know what I'm saying? Or just by hearing the music.
Mm-hmm.
I might actually try to watch it soon.
You really should.
Yeah.
Because it's we've talked about it, plenty of times on the show now. It's cheap, but it should never be remade. First of all, because I think CGI kills horror movies nowadays. Personally. Yeah. But it should never be remade. But it's just one of those movies that it's so terrifying because it's perfect. The music is great. I mean, people think of that theme when they see sharks.
Yes. Yes.
There's something to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild, man. It's Jaws is. How many Jaws did they make?
They did. Wasn't it?
4?
4.
Yeah.
4.
I believe 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 4.
Last one with the Jamaican guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 was like Jaws Revenge, and then they did
Jaws 3D, which looked terrible.
Oh, it did.
God.
That one was at the amusement park or water park.
No, it was at SeaWorld.
Was it at SeaWorld?
I'm pretty sure SeaWorld actually had this idea. Then they put it in the movie, and then they're like, "That's why it wouldn't work." No, I don't know. I just made that up.
Sound far-fetched. That's hilarious. It's Jaws. I watched Deep Blue Sea. I've also watched 50 Meters Down.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
That one stressed me out. Like I don't like. That's a different level of stress for me. It just stresses me out. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Have you seen The Shallows?
Shallows. Who's that with?
I can't remember her name off the top of my head though.
Blake Lively.
Oh, I started watching it and I never finished it. Was it good?
I thought it was actually interesting because it was like a series of like, well, duh, like when she goes out there, first of all, it's a secluded beach, and then there's a whale carcass out there too that she doesn't notice. It's like, how did you not see the whale carcass and the shark?
I'm thinking, how can you not smell it?
And then basically, the ending is what really got me because the shark just plunges, just head first with no regard for flesh or anything. He just dies right there on that what is it, a buoy?
I think so.
It's like a buoy, like literally like impales itself almost. I think it was. Yeah, it was really silly.
Shark kebab.
It was silly. I don't use that terminology too much, but it was a silly ending.
That's fun fact about Blake Lively. So I met her. One of my first paid acting gigs when I first started out acting I was background for Gossip Girl.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I met Blake Lively. She's sweet. I've always been a fan of hers, and obviously she'll never remember me, but I just remember that day. But she's really sweet. Our interaction wasn't anything crazy, but she's really cool. Really her career and just how she operates and moves, and like her and Ryan Reynolds, that whole relationship. Like she's in this person, and I can say from personal experience, like she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I've heard she's like really down to earth, just like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, you could tell. You could definitely tell.
So,
like I said,
you did a YouTube show called Boyfriends, right?
Yeah, I did.
So go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about that. Tell our listeners a little bit about that.
So Boyfriends is a series about the main character Nick. He's in college. He has this college experience, and he's gay. So he has the life of a gay man that he's just kind of like fumbling through life like any college kid, but his experience, his personal experience, and I think the beautiful thing about Boyfriends, my character's Dom, so I'm one of his buddies in college, football job, but there's more to who the guy is, and it's just a wild ride. Basically, I think it was a great cast for one. There was a lot of head hitters from Broadway in this show, and it was just cool because it was very colorful, literally, but also there's a lot of color that's added because of the characters, because of the actors, and it was just a great time. It was a cool time. Very excited. There was always something going on, basically.
Nice. Do you have any future projects going on that you'd like to share?
I have
there is a movie that I did called Blind Fire. So that'll be coming out to TV on demand theaters. That sounds like a tongue twister for some reason because of COVID. It's just like, oh, it's in theaters, but it's on TV. That comes out November 13th. So that should be an exciting movie. Without giving any away, it's an intense drama, just about law enforcement and how things just kind of transpire and how it just affects not just one person but everyone involved, but also a community too. So that one's I'm excited to see. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. And yeah, that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh.
2 weeks.
Well, we're excited for you. But hey, Isaiah, thank you for joining us, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Oh, man, thank you guys for having me.
It's been fun. Well, yeah, you should definitely try to come back on sometimes. We should definitely talk more movies. You got a very good knowledge of movies.
Oh, you definitely do.
Yes, I would love to do that. I'm always down to talk movies, especially with people who know what the hell they're talking about. It's a whole different ballgame. So thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it. You have a great night.
You as well. Take care, guys.